All right, I think we're rolling. Adam Miller, welcome to the Gig Life podcast.
Stoked to be here. Yeah,
Man, we made it. We got here. How long?
couple of false starts and
was
we're
that's
good.
three? That's three, wasn't it?
This is number 3, I think.
Yeah. But here we are, man. So what's going on? So today is the 14th of December, 2025. So what's week in the life of guitarist Adam Miller?
Oh wow, man, it just kind of varies all the time what I'm doing. When I'm at home in Australia, I am kind of doing lots of different things, I guess. So, this week has actually been just a couple of cover gigs. I think I've done two of my own shows. I've been working in the studio recording guitar parts for other people, working on producing stuff for other people, and I'm trying to think what else. Just trying to stay cool.
Yeah,
in the heat.
Yeah, because you're sitting currently in your non-air conditioned apartment. Man, I don't know how to do it. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't function without a little bit of air conditioning. Like, see, I'm being from New Zealand, I think I only saw an air conditioner once. And then came to Australia. And that first summer, just damn right nearly killed me, So and I work in a workshop all day. It's not air conditioned, but at least I know I can get in my car. I can get in my car and cool down on the way home. And but we'll get you through it. And you've got a gig today.
I actually have a gig today. Yeah, after we finish this. So that's with one of my trios. When I'm home and in Newcastle, which is where I live, Newcastle, I'm always just playing. I'd much rather actually just be playing than kind of not. So I have a few regular local gigs where I get to do what I do, my own stuff, and it's pretty amazing.
Cool. So like residencies, or just when you're
they're not residencies, but they're just things that I would a lot of them are kind of once a month ish. Yeah.
Very good. All right, so I want to talk a little bit today about your two new releases for this year anyway, and one is your album Timing, and the other one is the Neumann Sessions, which was recorded live at Studio 606.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, that's the Foo Fighters Studio, with the Sound City desk there, and which is got a whole history in itself. But before that, man, I want to roll right back to the beginning. So how it all sort of kicked off for you guitar-wise, and who were the early influences, and what made you want to play guitar, and then we'll build up to where we are today.
Yeah, sure, man. I'll do it brief. Basically, I started playing organ when I was 4. So like 2 tiers with pedals, the Yamaha method, which is a kind of strange, like you learn in groups, and it's like, instead of like most keyboard things being very like reading the music and focused, and I did learn that, it was a lot of ear training and very oral, which is strange for a keyboard instrument to start. But I don't know if it still exists, the Yamaha method, but there we go.
The Yamaha, okay, can we dig into that a little bit? Why is it called the Yamaha method?
I believe it because it was something developed by Yamaha to sell keyboards and organs, like the organs that we. So this was in the early 80s, the ones that have like 5 different bossa nova grooves and boop, 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 like not Hammond organ and that sort of thing. Like the thing that, actually they're not in the throw out days anymore because everyone's already thrown them all out.
Right.
Yeah, and so I just did in a group like with kids, and because there was the Suzuki method, which I believe they have a keyboard method and a string method. Sorry, this is going deep into things I don't really remember, but
that's cool though. It's interesting.
I know that. Okay. No, I was going to say, but I do know the main difference with the Yamaha method was it did focus on a lot of ear work and ear training in it, rather than just following the notes on the page.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, and I think that's what set me up to play guitar. For 2 reasons was I then picked up a guitar when I was about 8 or 9. My dad owned a guitar, like a cheap nylon string that he had to play in teachers' college here. He was a primary school teacher. and he can't play it at all. But I picked it up one day, and it just all made sense to me. Like I basically saw the keyboard up every string. I saw black and white notes up the whole thing. So the first chords I ever played on guitar were triads, like you play on a piano, like 1, 3, 5, do, 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 instead of the normal guitar shapes. And I just kind of taught myself to play it from then. And it was, like very late 80s, early 90s, I guess. And it was just an awesome time for guitar stuff. And I just happened to luck into some cool things. I was saying to someone the other day, I think the first song I actually did learn to play on guitar was Mona, that Craig McLachlan version.
You know what? You're not the first person to tell me that on this podcast. Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but someone else said the same thing.
I'm sorry
dink,
for them too.
Dink, 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 dink.
Yeah, and it is cool because it's like this funky groove thing, this little riff,
well, it's the hand drive.
Yeah, and it was a little mystery to like work out how to actually play it back in the time. And Craig McLachlan's quite a good guitar player, and there was some great sort of guitar stuff I remember on that cassette. Same time was like 1927 with, I can't remember the album, The Other Side, I think, and which was their second album, and then Ish, which had all really amazing guitar stuff on it and guitar solos. And I was learning all that. And I'm talking like, this is me like 2 weeks into learning guitar.
Right.
And then I think week 3, my mum had seen Tommy Emmanuel on like Hey Hey It's Saturday or something. And so she bought me, actually it was the Guitar Boogie single. It was before Dare to Be Different came out. And so, she bought me that on cassette, and I was stoked with that. I think my favorite artist then and this is kind of crazy when you're 8 or 9 years old, was Billy Joel. But I couldn't sing along to Billy Joel because my voice hadn't broken. But the great thing when I heard Tommy Emmanuel was that I thought I sounded exactly the same because he didn't sing. Like I could just play along and I could sound like it. And that was the main, that was huge for me. And I didn't know that it was hard. And, obviously I also didn't have the internet or resources to learn this stuff. I just did it by ear and had a couple of great teachers very early on that could even like show me some of it and that sort of thing as well. But it was just because I really liked the sound of it and like playing along to it. Not that I thought it was a particular difficult thing to play, which made it probably a lot easier for me.
Gotcha. You mentioned when you first picked up that guitar, you were seeing the black and white up and down the neck, right? So, and you developed really quickly, fairly early on, right? So, do you kind of play by shapes? Are you seeing patterns on your when you're looking down at your guitar?
I've always seen the notes, so I've
seen
just
the notes. Okay,
yeah. So there's fast forwarding a long way, but obviously I know all the guitar patterns and shapes and scales and the way you learn them on guitar. But at the same time, I can tell you what note I'm playing instantly and where it is and how to make up chords, not using normal chord shapes, but voicings that translate to things. And it just comes from just knowing, exactly where the notes are. And I always have, and it's kind of been an interesting thing, especially when I was teaching for a long time. I taught at university for 9 years as well, but explaining that of like where the notes are and how to translate that to other players is, especially guitar players, because usually we have no idea what's going on.
Right. So what's your, like really quickly in 20 seconds, what's your method of showing or teaching someone where the notes are?
Well, actually, it's a pretty simple thing for the most part. It's just getting the memory into your head. And for the most part, if someone has played keyboard or has a reference of keyboard, that is the best place because you can transfer that sort of knowledge onto the keyboard. Otherwise, it's really just memory training. And it's like the way that works for most people is to simply go up and down the string, one string at a time, and say every note out loud. So you start to visualize a map. But
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So who were some of the guitarists that you started to study then?
Well, it was kind of a jump. Like I've sort of through the 90s, I pretty much just listened to Tommy Emmanuel. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like as his albums came out for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't have a huge access to music then. It was like you had your 10 cassettes. Actually, I didn't even have a CD player till I think I was 18. So it was just all cassettes. And so I just consumed those. And Tommy's early albums were great because they were all mainly electric, and they were kind of like a playbook of how to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Joe Satriani, and they just had all that material in them. So they were a great learning thing. I think I definitely found Hendrix through my teenage years. Then I became really into basically like the Chili Peppers, like John Frusciante and those guys, Rage Against the Machine, and then Chris Chaney, The Living End, who I'm a massive fan of, and then it kind of delved off into jazz and avant-garde land from there.
So who were those jazz avant-garde type players that then you saw?
Once again, it's this thing of access to music, which I find really interesting. It was that I had to, I didn't have someone older than me giving me things. I actually didn't have a guitar teacher for a lot of my teenage years either. So I was like, it was just whatever I would find and kind of get a hold of. But a high school teacher played me an album by Guy Strazulo, or who goes by Guy Straz now, and Steve Hunter. Both incredible kind of Sydney-based-ish jazz artists. And that kind of blew me away of like just this different style of music that I hadn't heard before. And it sent me down this just this whole other world. And so they were a big start. Then it jumped into James Muller. These are all Australian artists, by the way. And then I guess then it was like Martin Taylor, a UK jazz guitarist, who are Slava Gregorian as well, Australian classical guitar player. These were the guys that kind of then set me off into other things and exploring a little bit more.
Okay, so were you taking these players to your teachers and saying, who are these guys? Can you kind of show me how they play, or were you at a facility or at a level where you could kind of nut that stuff out yourself?
Yeah, I like I said, I'd kind of stopped getting guitar lessons when I was about 13. Okay. Just through life and things. And so I was finding these artists when I was like 16, 17, 18, and I could, do it all by ear because I'd just been training like that for so long. I'd just been working those things out. And then a couple of those guys I would like, Steve Hunter I would go to for lessons and things like that as well, just in composition and improvisation and just sort of those ideas. So, yeah.
So the finger picking style thing, because you won a contest a fair while back. So is that something you got specifically into, or was it something you picked up because that's a Tommy Emmanuel thing?
Yeah, definitely came from listening to Tommy Emmanuel. Like I think the first song I ever learnt that had 2 parts going was Blue Moon from that first Dare to Be Different album, and slowly developed it. And it was just a way, essentially it was just a way to play by myself. And, I was always composing things. I was also playing in a lot of other bands. Like this is late teens. So I was already, doing cover gigs and playing in a band, an original band that was like the Chili Peppers, that kind of like we won the National Uni Band Comp and things like that as well. And I essentially, I was just such a huge Tommy Emmanuel fan. Probably the biggest place it started was that he hadn't toured Australia for a while. And when I was about 19, he did his very first solo guitar tour in Australia. And I contacted his management and asked if I could open for him. And they just said yes. I think I had one song on, embedded in my website in Real Media Player or something, 46K or kilobyte.
Yeah, that's
something.
throwback.
Yeah, just going, just squelching along. But yeah, they gave me that gig, and that was crazy because I'd actually never, other than like playing at high school, I'd never played a solo acoustic instrumental guitar gig because there was just nowhere to do it. You couldn't, there weren't even like open mic nights or things, you could do that stuff in Newcastle in those days. It was such a rock town. So, so like so then I basically had 8 weeks to really jump in and develop a solo set that wasn't just Tommy Emmanuel songs, because I couldn't play any of those because I was playing before him. So that was kind of just a real in-depth study. So I'd be ready to do that gig. And it's kind of just sort of stuck with me from there and developed, and really as a way to play by myself before I had the ability to bring this stuff to other people. And it started very much with that Tommy Emmanuel, Chet Atkins sort of style, which is like alternating bass. But the reality was, in the early 2000s, again, we're talking, that wasn't very cool. Like I couldn't go anywhere and do any other gig other than opening for Tommy. Like now that sort of stuff would work because it's got sort of that country sound, but back then it just was not cool. And then I was also playing like this jazz and funk and fusion sort of stuff. So I really then tried to work out how to take this fingerstyle stuff to a different way of playing it, more groove based, having groovier bass lines, being able to improvise solos while still playing bass lines. And so I could do gigs in sort of my world, I guess.
Gotcha. So that gig with Tommy then, so how was he? What was it like? What was it like meeting your hero, basically? And how intimidated, if you were at all, of playing, that all that stuff in front of him? Because I'm sure he sat out there and listened. And
yeah, it was. So yes, so at 19 years old, which doesn't seem very young now, but I feel like 25 years ago it was really young, because there wasn't the internet and there wasn't YouTube and a way to learn this stuff properly yet. It was insane. Like I got to meet my hero, like my childhood hero, essentially that day, talk to him. And then I had to go and play a sold out show in a 1,000-seat theater in Newcastle to people that have seen me play like funk and rock music, but never seen me play solo guitar either, even though it was probably closer to what I'd been playing my whole life. It was huge. And Tommy was great. And like, he just, I did play one of his songs, like a really obscure thing from one of his very first albums that he told me that he'd never played ever. He just recorded it on that album. And he, I got off stage and he said, "Oh, you played that wrong. It goes like this." And so that was cool. But yeah, definitely, like.
But hopefully he said it in a way like, "Oh, hey, mate, it was good, but you played it wrong."
It seemed pretty brutal at the time, I think. But he's, it's good. Tommy and I have done a lot since, so yeah,
that's great.
But it was a great, it was a pretty remarkable, experience that first time getting to play with him.
When did you start getting into self-recording yourself, and what kind of equipment did you have, and when did you start really starting to focus in on sound as opposed to technique? And
yeah, so from when I was 17 years old, I started recording on my computer, and this was in 1998. And so, the computer could barely do anything in those days. And I was kind of shocked at what it could do. I think, so the band I was in, we'd already paid for some recordings. They'd never turned out very well. And we got this software package that I realized a year or two later that it was a pirated version of something I didn't know at the time. And it did work on my computer. And it was crazy. So it was, my computer had 2 gigabytes of hard drive, full stop. And from memory, it was a Pentium 256 processor, which I don't even know how that translates anymore, but I know it's about 1/50th the speed of an iPhone. And we had a sound card in the back, and I worked out how to split that into 2 and use a Behringer mixer. I bought a Behringer mixer that I could then record 2 separate channels at a time. I bought a Rode microphone, the NT1, when they were still like $800 or something. They were still, the first ones were really expensive. And I just developed really quickly, and like listening to records that I loved and translating it. So I think by early 2000, I'd actually recorded the first EP that this band I was in had released. So we recorded that totally and utterly. And by that stage, I'd actually worked out how to rig 2 sound cards in my computer. So these are the ones where they're PCI slots. So you had to put them in the back of the tower. And so I could record 4 channels at a time, but they recorded out of sync because there was no clock to sync them up. So I could record drums like kick, overhead, tom and snare, floor tom and snare. And then, but I had to line to the 2 pairs of tracks up later, and it was just kind of hilarious. But I kind of got into like that sort of thing very quickly, and really same sort of thing. Like if I liked a record, especially in Australia, sometimes I would try and ring the engineer and ask them what they did. It was also the start of Audio Technology magazine in Australia then, which was a really incredible resource. Like it just had so much information, and the interviews were so deep that I remember the first time I got that magazine, I had no understanding of what was going on in the interview. And and so, I get the recording side of things has become a really heavy part of my life. And it was the main part of my life for a little while, where I was just mainly working on records and producing other artists. And
because you mix and master too, don't you?
Yeah. So do that. And for a lot of my albums, I mixed all of them. There's a few that have gone off to mastering to other people, but even my first solo album, which is online, which is called After One Day, which I recorded in a day for a university assignment actually at the time, studying like audio engineering as part of a communications degree. It was recorded. Actually, the university in Newcastle had 2 Neumann U87s, and they never let anyone borrow them, and I begged them. And I recorded it to a Tascam DA88 recorder, which is like a video, works on like the old videotapes, but records in digital. Right. And then I mixed it through a little Mackie desk into my computer, added reverb in the computer, and then mastered it. And that album is, out still today. So that's from, back in 2000 on this same old computer, where I used to have to rent a CD burner to finish the projects because it was pre-USB. USB didn't exist yet. There wasn't a CD burner in my computer, but a local computer store, you could rent a CD burner for $50 for a day that plugged in via parallel port. So I could finish projects that way. Yeah, crazy.
So having heard your guitar sound that you have, and listening back to these early days of you engineering yourself, the amount of time it sometimes takes, you were talking about the lining the PC slots up and all that sort of stuff. At sort of what stage did it start getting frustrating with the equipment that you had, that you couldn't get the sound coming out of your amp or your guitar, and you couldn't get it to translate digitally onto computer?
Here's the thing. I actually found I always could. And I think that's awesome. The difference is, like, when you don't have the resources, you just work harder, and you're like really critical about the microphone and where it sits and how it's placed. Because my first recordings, like, well, I didn't realize, but plugins did exist, but they wouldn't work on my computer. You couldn't actually put a plug-in on a track. You had to actually process it, and then it was done. There was no undo.
Yep.
So you had to commit to everything. It was like, so I think those early days of like going, okay, how do I get what I'm hearing to this? Yeah, it kind of made it. I have sometimes more trouble now that I have all the options and have all the tools that I could have only dreamt about then. And whenever I am recording or having problems, especially with my own stuff, I try to just remember that stuff and go, well, 90% of it doesn't matter, because of the recording side of it, it's all about the performance. Like, I want to hear what I'm actually playing or what's being played. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good that you have that awareness of knowing when to stop digging around for a sound, or going into sound creation mode or producer mode.
Yeah.
And then just sort of rolling with the sound that you've recorded and moving on.
Yeah, especially for my music, it's all very performance based. Like, it's about, for me personally, it's about what I'm performing and what I'm playing, and that is kind of more critical. And that side of things, like, the sound I make with my hands and the sound that comes out of a guitar amp, I'm pretty set on. Like it's done. I've been pretty settled with that for quite a long time. So,
right. How important when recording is a full performance, a full take, a one take? Is that something you're striving for when you sit down to perform that song, or do you have in your mind that, oh, let's try and get this the best that we can get it sounding?
Usually,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a happy compromise, like between the two. Obviously, the dream would be just to get it all one take done. You're over. It doesn't always work out that way. Even, most of the time, the issue is just, for me, it's emotional. Like it's literally like, whilst especially if I'm recording by myself, if I'm in a situation where I've got to overdub the guitar or play solo guitar, I'm almost like thinking about, what's a reviewer going to think about this? Or
oh, really?
Like I'm so far ahead of where I currently am, it's hard to get out of it. If I'm recording with other people, it's so much easier for me. And then it's about actually being in the music and enjoying everything. But I'm pretty bad at getting in my head, especially when it's just me in front of it. But yeah.
So have you had situations where, like you've just said then, you've recorded something and then, you're thinking about the reviewer or whatever, you've finished, you've released the song, and then do you have regrets that if I had a chance to do that one again, you'd go and do it again? Or are you pretty happy with how it is before you sort of put the final stamp on it?
Usually if I'm printing something that I've been working on that long, I'm pretty happy with. But most of the time, the thing that is actually on the recording is when I have forgotten about that, and it probably is a take the whole way through. It's like,
okay,
I may, however, have recorded that guitar part 300 times before I got to that. Like,
gotcha.
It's not but I've done it 300 times. I've left it for a week, and I've come back and I just play it straight through perfectly, or not perfectly, but the correct vibe.
The Steely Dan method of 300 takes.
Yeah, I guess
that's cool, man. I mean, if you can be with yourself that long and that particular sort of piece of music or that track, and that's awesome. Well done.
It just depends on what the scenario is. Like there was an album I released a few years ago called Beyond Reason, and we recorded it. I did it with my LA trio, but we did it over Zoom because I was in lockdown in Australia. So they were on my computer. And so I had to record all the guitar parts after they laid down the bass and drums. And that took forever because I just could not get out of my head. And especially I think with the career delays of COVID. And, I was living in the US when COVID hit, and I got stuck in Australia. And then it just felt like it halted a lot of momentum I had at the time. It was that all those things were like echoing in my head so badly that I just it took me a long time to get that album right for me. But it was that same thing where I would spend ages recording it, and then I would come back to a song a week later and just play it straight through fine. But it was just that process. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So you spend a bit of time in the States. So what draws you there? Have you been there to try and chase a career in the States, or do you have something?
I would probably say my career is in the States, to be honest.
Okay.
That is, if we just sort of, go back through sort of my career and that sort of thing, like early 2000s, I did that show with Tommy. I did a couple more shows with Tommy Emmanuel, like few tours in Australia and that sort of thing. Then my producing started to take off. So I kind of was focusing more on that side of things. And then I was doing a lot of sideman work, late 2000s. And I lost a gig pretty badly. Like I got sacked and I didn't really even get told. And it was like, oh, wow, I'd committed to this gig pretty hard. And so that was unfortunate. And around the same time, I went to the US for the first time just to check it out, have a look. And it kind of everything kind of opened to me very quickly in that trip. I got to meet another one of my absolute heroes, this guy, Charlie Hunter, who's an incredible guitarist. He's like guested on John Mayer albums. Norah Jones first recording was with him. He was on D'Angelo's Voodoo, stuff like Charlie's the man. So I got to meet him and hang out with him a bit. And then it was like the day after that, I managed to do 2 shows with Les Paul on Broadway. And it was like kind of this real, like, especially even that show in particular, because Les asked me to do a song solo in each set as well before I played with the band. And, it was amazing that I could get away with what I actually do to this sold out room. And, Australia's just been difficult for that for a long time because the niche, and we just don't have the population to support niche instrumental guitar music. We kind of have the headspace for Tommy Emmanuel, and that's kind of about it, really. Right. And so, it just led to me like going to the US more and more, and it just kept opening up and show offers and record deals that that I really didn't ever take, but things like that just kept happening, and it just developed out from there. And so I've been touring there fairly consistently since 2013 now. And because of the legalities and the costs of visas and actually going there to work, whilst you've got your visa, you try and make the most of it. So you're kind of just there all the time. And I did move there in 2019 to just because it was just opening up so much. But COVID kind of put me back here. And
Is it getting harder to reapply for your visas to get back there? Is it starting to get more?
It's definitely getting more expensive.
Right.
So the costs and things have gone up, and it's always been a very difficult process. As a solo musician, you need a visa that's called an O1, which is an extraordinary talent visa, and you need a US sponsor. You need to prove all this legally on paper, pay immigration attorneys. Have dates secured for like up to 3 years. It's a complex legal process, but it's just part of doing the job. It's just another thing like doing taxes or whatever. So, but you just try to make the most of it while you're there.
And it's the same process every time. And do they not draw on your last application? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you having to start from scratch every time? It's like you're a completely new person?
No,
really?
That's kind of how it works, It's
that's crazy.
It's a complex process, and it's, obviously it's set up for bigger musicians, and like they don't really have a way for a musician to tour there, which is why it's a big thing to kind of go there and play.
Okay.
It's cool.
So when you do go back there, are you focusing on the same sort of areas, or when you mentioned there when you do go back, you make the most of the time that you're there? Is a bit of that time on sort of research and development for yourself, or for as a solo artist? Are you going to try different places, or are you going there to make your money?
No, it's a bit of both. So there are definitely places that are like very familiar to me. Los Angeles really does still feel like home to me, and that's where like the trio that's been on my last essentially 4 records is based. So that it's kind of a little bit like a homecoming every time I go there. And there's certain key areas where I have followings, but I'm always trying to expand into new areas as well. And I think a lot of it now too is what I've found, especially my last few international trips, is really digging into, I guess, the online sort of media thing, is like things like podcasts. And we were discussing a little bit before the show, but so many of the podcasts are basically just like YouTube television shows now. But a lot of them, you can't do remote. You actually have to be there in the studio with people. And so I've been prioritizing more and more time to actually do those things instead of doing shows sometimes, because they have such a great long-term payoff career-wise that can keep going beyond me just playing a show in a city. So
how long are you usually over there when you're...
It's got shorter as I've got older. My trips used to be like 6 to 12 weeks and really kind of crazy. The last little while, it's been more in the like 2 to 4 to 5 weeks sort of range. Also because I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager, not through want of trying, but once again, niche style of music. So I'm, like I can only book so much. Trying to, coordinate all those dates and travel and make it all work it's a full-time job before I think about picking up my guitar to, be good at things. So, yeah.
How often have you come close to like going, I can't do this. This is too hard. The whole self-managing.
Well, definitely a lot. I would, that's the worst part of being an artist to a degree, is that constant, is the booking and the research and the promote, just that side of things. Because it does get very demoralizing as well. I actually put on social media a couple of days ago, because I was with this tour coming up in the US in January, Feb, I have a few open windows, and I was just like, well, it'd be good to explore some new areas. Where would you like me to play? And sometimes the venues that people think I should be playing are much bigger than what my reality is. And
right.
And even like if I contact those venues, I won't even get an answer. It's that thing of like, it's roughly like I get a return to maybe 10% of my booking emails, which are not like general. They're all specific emails for a specific venue at a specific time, but it might be like 10% get back to me ever. And then, it might be 1% that then actually eventuates in a gig. Yeah. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah. That's demoralizing. Would take away from the art, that's for sure, right?
Yeah. When you're just not getting answers, that's kind of the hardest thing. It's just like, yeah. And there's so many reasons why that would happen as well. Just be like, the dates I'm saying they can't do and it's too hard to write. I get it all, but it's that's the thing that's the worst about being self-managed, self-booked artist in inverted commas.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so where were we in the timeline there? So you've done the Tommy thing.
Yeah.
You discovered this jazz. You're recording more and more now, and you're doing the producing and the engineering and stuff for other people. What sort of frequency were you turning over your albums? So were you sort of doing them, because you've got a fair decent back catalogue there.
Yeah. Like through the 2000s, it was kind of like every 4 years, and they usually like started with different tours. And it was like, so it just started to happen. I tried to move away from the solo acoustic guitar thing just because I wasn't super into it, and it never works. Like people wouldn't want to come and see me play solo acoustic guitar, but if I played with drums and bass, people would come and see me. So in Australia, at least, this was before I was touring overseas, but one of the biggest things to start with me going to the US was I played the NAMM show, the huge music trade show in Anaheim every year. I actually played it for Cole Clark Guitars, and I was over there for them. And a US record label, an acoustic guitar label, basically wanted to sign me on the spot. They saw me playing and they're like, we want you to do this. And unfortunately, that didn't actually, I recorded the album, but they didn't release it just through different reasons. But I did release that album, and had been working so hard at that time that it got incredible reviews in all the guitar magazines, because it was this sort of different groove, improvisational fingerstyle guitar album rather than the traditional sort of Chet Atkins thing. And that's what led me to being able to tour more in the US, was that idea. And then I realized I wasn't a fan of it myself and started gravitating back more towards the electric guitar for a number of reasons. Even just, we can go into that better.
You can go into it now if you like.
Yeah, sure. So
awesome.
I guess, I'd released this solo acoustic album. I was doing shows all across the US. One of the problems I kept finding was that it was really hard to work with US sound engineers on acoustic guitar sounds. They all wanted to add lots of treble, take out all the bottom end, and compress it really hard. And I was always like, can you not do any of that? I need lots of bottom end because I need it to sound like I'm a bass player. I wasn't detuning my guitar at all, but it was very bassline heavy, and it needed to have this dynamic range so I could play soft and could play loud without it being squished. And then I ended up doing this tour through Europe for an American guitar amp company that I'd become very well associated with as well, called Two Rock Amplifiers, who I'm still very closely associated with. And that tour was the first time I hadn't taken an acoustic guitar on tour. And it was a little freak, like I just had an electric guitar, a hollow body. And I was a little scared about it, like actually just being on an electric guitar for this whole time. And what I found was I had the most exceptional guitar sound every night. Like it was like, a lot of the shows were either in stores in very nice guitar shops in Europe, or they were in little concert halls that they'd sort of set up. And whether I'd played through just the amp on stage, then it sounded great because I'd set it up and it was perfect. Or if it was being mic'd, I just found like guys with electric guitar, they just turned it up louder and it still had all the bottom end and all the hugeness, and they just didn't do anything to it. And I found that just made so much more sense in all sorts of play. Like instead of having to worry about the sound guy, I always had this sort of consistent sound if I used an amp. And it kind of changed the trajectory of my career and my music quite a bit after that stage. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned you played at some sort of nice guitar stores there. And so are they, just tell me, are those stores, are the areas in those stores, do they set them up like so acoustically it's good for a guitar player to play? Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Is that what you meant by that, or they just know, obviously they're going to know the gear?
Yeah. It depends. So it just varied. Like so, I guess short story. One, being an instrumental guitarist, I do have very good relationships with guitar companies because I know how to make a guitar sound very good. And there is this outlet where they do like in-stores and clinics to sell their instruments, and they need a player to do it. And me being a soloist and not needing even backing tracks to go really helped, just kind of sell equipment because it sounded good. So, and it was a way for me to tour without it being my cost. It's like the only time that's where I'm not the person organizing it. We actually got to stay in hotels and things, not just couches or airport floors to save money and things like between shows. But some of the stores are, really remarkable kind of things that actually, and a lot of them do actually have stage setups, like they are tiny venues almost within that environment. They're not necessarily acoustically great, but they're a great environment and they have that network to bring people in. Let's
start talking about your two new albums.
Yeah, love to.
For this year.
Yeah.
So timing, let's do that one first. So that you released that's a full-length album that you released in 2025. And I'll let you explain the premise of the name of it and all of it, and how you went about recording it, and then I'll probably have some questions.
Yeah, go from there. Well, it's great actually because this kind of translates to what we were talking about earlier with the way we record, or the way I've unfortunately been able to record, was that I was in LA mid-tour. It was like September last year, I guess. And I had my LA band, who are these incredible musicians, bass player Joel Gottschalk, who he played for the guitar player Philip Sayce for many years, but in recent times been playing for Kate Hudson, actress.
Philip Sayce, the keyboard player?
Philip Sayce, the guitar player.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Philip Sayce.
I'm thinking of the French Philip Sayce. Okay, sorry.
No. Philip Sayce is an incredible sort of I don't like to make comparisons, but like that Hendrix sort of Stevie Ray Vaughan sort of thing. Incredible guitar player. But Joel played with him for many years. Joel, the actress Kate Hudson. He's currently touring with KT Tunstall. And he's an incredible musician. And Justin Glasgow is the drummer. Justin is actually mainly a producer and produces huge kind of modern alt pop sort of stuff in LA. But he's played drums on a lot of huge recordings as well. And we just met by chance when I first started living in LA in 2019. And these guys, we're all the same age, and they've become really close friends of mine. Like, we talk every day, and we have for for like 6 years now. So, we're always trying to hang out if I'm in town or whatever. But I knew I had a few days in LA on this tour, and so we tried to schedule in 3 days to record a new record. And the idea was, because we'd had done 2 records before that remotely, basically, was to just try and track it live finally and just sit in a room and play it. And then through whatever happened with everyone's lives, we only ended up getting 6 hours in the studio. Justin owns a studio. It's his place, so it's kind of set up. But that was kind of how it worked out. And so I brought a short list of the songs that we could do that I thought would kind of work quickly with the guys. And I did commit this time, so I wouldn't be in this situation of getting the album home and then going, I'll re-record all my guitar parts for the next 4 years.
Right.
Because it's very easy to do if you're isolated.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we're setting up in the same room. It's done. Guitar amp's there. It's next to the drums. We're just committing to this. If it works, it works. And then if it doesn't, I'll work it out later. But yeah, we managed to get through 7 songs on that day. One I actually thought was a write-off. At the end of the take that's on the album, I didn't include it there, but I said, all right, this song's terrible. Let's move on to the next song, because I just thought it was that bad, and then got home. It was like, it's okay. So yeah, we essentially tracked a whole album between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. done live in one room. Joel, bass player, actually had to go to another gig downtown LA. I think that was at 4 p.m. And then we had my LA show that night. So then we did a show that night as well.
Right.
So, that's kind of the chaoticness of LA and that sort of thing. But yeah, that was it. Just came together really quick, and that's what happened.
So that block of 7 songs. So did you walk in to that 6-hour session going, we're going to record 7 songs today? Or did you have a list of something a little bit bigger and let's just see how many we get done?
No, it was the opposite way. I was like, we're going to get 3 songs done. Let's just do 3 songs, and then I'll do maybe like another, 6 with guys in Australia when I'm back home. That was kind of the idea. And then we just got through them really quick. It was just like, because, we are close friends. It's really easy to look at each other and just create in the moment. My music is very simple generally on paper, so it's easy for people to follow and catch. I'm not trying to make it difficult to play. I want people to be able to get the song quick and then put in what they feel out of it, rather than it be this super difficult thing to play, which is what a lot of instrumental music is. And yeah, it just came together quick. And then, yeah, by that time of like these 7 songs, just had this feel. So I was happy with 6 when we left. I was like, yeah, we've got 6. I'll still do more. Then when I got at home, I think I was still on the road for another month, like 6 weeks or something before I could listen to it. I still had to go through Europe. And when I pulled it up, it had this very unique sound because of some issues with recording as well. It was like there was a problem. There's only one mic on the guitar amp, and the preamp we plugged it into was really noisy. But because we were working so quick, we didn't notice or really listen back properly. And then there was a problem with the main mono drum overhead, which is how I usually mix most of my records. And so it had this very particular sound. So I was like, it's going to be really hard to add other songs to it. So it worked out that the song I thought was a write-off was actually pretty great. So that got added to the album. So that was track 7. And then track 8 is actually 2 takes, the first song again, because it was just, there was 2 takes of this one song that I really loved and I just couldn't choose between them. And the easiest thing was to put both on and just bookend the album with the same songs.
Why not?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's really cool. What a great process. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really special just to be able to do it that way and just have this kind of complete work kind of there. So pretty amazing.
So the other 2 guys, how well did they know that music going into that session?
From memory, I think I did get to have a little playthrough, a bit of it with Joel, the bass player, the day before.
Okay.
Justin, the drummer, had never heard it before going in that day. So, you know, usually like with that stuff, we have a playthrough it like maybe 2 or 3 times to get a rough idea. You know, those guys they're doing sessions all the time. They're really used to mapping out song structures, and between it's very easy for us to come up with things quickly and interject, just that interplay between us. And that's, you know, what was amazing to be able to be captured in that moment. And there are so many things that even I didn't realize that we'd made work and follow on the day, like just little beats that have become part of the song now, but they weren't written as part of the song. And I didn't actually realize that it had happened on the day, but in listening back, it was amazing to go, oh wow, we actually played all that together and accented that. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Neumann Sessions.
Yeah.
Now, which is same 3 guys, yourself and
Joel and Justin. Well, this is it's an interesting kind of thing. It's a bit of, you know, the whole industry side of things as well. And it happened just after we recorded this. I think it was like the 31st of January this year. And it was the original idea was that I'd had this new album, the Timing album, and it hadn't come out yet either, but the idea with instrumental music with film clips is that you basically just record the band playing the song again. You know, you're not going to try and mime it. You just do another live version of the song, and that's the film clip. And I was in LA and we'd worked out a day that the 3 of us were available and could record videos for the album. And we were just going to do it at either Justin's studio or actually in Joel's living room. And I was just going to film it, stick up my camera and record it. And that was going to be it. And then I have a good friend that works at Neumann, and he talked to me about doing some recording, especially with the binaural head mic. They really wanted to feature that and video it. And so we went back and forth, and then we changed the session to being for them there. And I'm trying to remember. It kind of went through a few studios in LA before they could find one that could actually do it. And then they finally got Studio 606, which is the Foo Fighters' personal studio. And that was it was just this incredible thing. Same sort of thing. The whole session was done in 2 hours or something. It was very quick. But being able to record and, you know, sort of video there was an incredible experience. So essentially what happened was, because of Neumann's timeline and a few miscommunications, we couldn't actually get it done for the film clips for my album, unfortunately. So and by that stage I was like, oh, this is so cool, I'm going to release it as its own thing. So that was, we went in, we tracked 4 songs live. I think we did 2 takes of each. We really only did 2 takes because the film crew wanted a second shot, which I kind of...
Different angle type sort of thing?
Different angles, but it was also like, I was like, guys, we're not playing to a click and it's not going to be the same every time. So basically all of it is the first take. I think one of the songs I used the second take of, but we only had 1 camera shot for it in the end. But yeah, it was just this incredible thing that sort of came together, and being able to work in that studio, with the Sound City Neve console myself as an engineer was kind of going nuts, but I had to sort of take my hands off it a little bit and go, well, there's 3 house engineers here. There's a team from Neumann and Sennheiser that know their stuff as well. And, I had a little argument about how the amplifier was mic'd, and I won. So that was okay. And then we just kind of went to it, and it was great to just have that sort of hands-off experience. But one of the great things was that through the way the project was managed, it ended up that I managed all the audio anyway. So I actually took the tracks home and I got to mix and master it. So it was pretty cool to be able to pull up tracks from that studio through that console back at home.
So how much of that then did you spend just listening to the artifacts of that? You know what I mean here by, like, let's just pull up the kick drum for this song, and let's just listen to the artifacts from the preamps or from that Neve board. Did you geek out like that?
No.
Did you do that?
No, I actually didn't. I'm going to be honest. Like,
you still can. You still got.
I've still got it. I just, yeah. I think the thing now is because we have access to that sort of, so much of that sort of stuff, like in the moment, being there and being able to, like, click the EQs and then push the button of the EQ in and out, and then the EQ didn't work anymore. The channel didn't work, so you had to bash it a few times. Like that was pretty special. But I'm looking at my desk, like, I'm recording this podcast through a Neumann mic into a Heritage Audio Neve Pre anyway. It's like we have access to that stuff. So I don't think it was that revolutionary, the sound coming home. The room was exceptional. Like the room that David designed for drums, it was maybe a little too huge for what I do. Like we actually had to really scale back. My amp volume is barely on because the room took off so much. We had to really, so listening I did spend some time listening to room mics, and a lot of like what you hear on that recording, I can't remember. I'd have to look. I think for the most part, there's no reverb on anything. I think I put reverb on my guitar amp to put it in its little space, but I'm pretty sure I didn't actually put reverb on the drums. They're just the room mics being pulled in. And it was, and the other thing, when I finished that recording, there's basically almost no plugins on any channel either. I just really kept it as this raw thing through the recording, which was pretty special.
That's awesome. So how big is that room?
It's huge.
So I've seen the Sound City documentary. For people that don't know about this, Sound City, look, I think it's on Netflix. I think it is.
I think it's still there.
I think it's still there.
Yeah, and essentially, Dave Grohl, when Sound City, the studio, did close, although it hasn't closed, in reality, it's still being run.
Yeah.
But Dave managed to buy this Neve mixing console, which was used for, it did record Nirvana stuff. It recorded Rumours, Fleetwood Mac.
Motley Crue, I think.
Yeah, like it's just endless. And so he bought this mixing console and built essentially a studio for the Foo Fighters around it. And it's this incredible facility that has to remain secret.
Yep.
It's not, you can't just go there. You have to have an in to be able to go, and they do open the studio to other people, but you've got to have an in to go there because it's also their storage facility, or they could, it's pretty cool. But it's especially like the live room is this giant, I don't even, it's probably a 10-meter tall ceiling because it's, it's a newer industrial warehouse, but it's this huge room. It might be like 20 meters long. Like it's a huge, expansive room. And like the Neumann sessions I recorded, we did, obviously been talking, it was videoed. So the videos on YouTube, you can kind of get an idea of the expansiveness of the space. But the film crew, I think the deepest camera was only halfway back down the room. So it's kind of huge. And the control room is massive as well, it's an incredible space to be able to work in. It was a pretty, I guess going through talking, like so much of nearly all the music I've worked on, I've recorded as well. So I've been the guy engineering. I run the studio. There's a couple of little studios I've worked out in Newcastle. I also worked out of my home for a long time, so things were just recorded there. And then the last couple of albums been done in Justin's studio in LA, but it's very much a production studio. It's very small and intimate. And then even Justin and I are the ones engineering and working. So we're still just there pushing record ourselves and making it happen. But to work in that environment with a full crew around you, and I, for the most part, I just got to, play guitar and unfortunately think about how I looked on camera, which is harder as well. But, just being aware of all those things. So it was, that was a remarkable treat to be able to do and then, get out into the world.
That's awesome. Did you feel like you wanted to get into the control room and tweak a few things? Were you hearing something that you thought could have been a little bit different?
Well, no. So in the moment, we really had to just take our hands off, Justin and I as well, because Justin's so used to doing it too. We just, and we didn't have headphones or anything when we recorded this. We just played live in the room. So we actually, I don't think we even listened to it before the first take. We were just, because so much of it was like blocking and getting the lighting right for the video because they really wanted that to be amazing. So, yeah, there were different responsibilities that day. And it was just a hands-off sort of approach thing, just going, well, it is what it is. And it's great to be in it. But you're also with amazing people. So, they weren't doing anything wrong. There's a couple of things in hindsight that I maybe wish I'd, even just looking at a microphone placement where I'd gone, oh, maybe we should have just done that. But, that from the point of view as a performer and as an engineer, that's kind of the joy of like some of this stuff, especially with recording live, is that you're dealing with the whatever's there afterwards and kind of running with it as well. Like, especially both of these projects, actually, like the last three things I've put out have been essentially recorded live. And it's just that magic of like working with the issues and like these things didn't work out, but the result of it is better than if it had worked out because you've kind of pushed and worked harder a little bit in post, but then not at all because the focus was always on the performance of what we were actually playing, not as much about the sound of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can take away those two experiences to the next recording session that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely do not want to work on things forever again, but, I'm working on some solo acoustic stuff at the moment and it's hard to get out of my head with it. And it's one of those things I've got to really just, taking all the options out and getting rid of my engineer head and, even with that sort of thing, it's, the engineer in me wants to put 6 mics on an acoustic guitar, but then the performer in me and even the listener, I go, man, I love the sound of just one microphone on an acoustic guitar, even when it's solo. So, it's kind of stripping back those things and going, I don't need stereo image, and 90% of people listen to things through a mono Bluetooth speaker anyway. So
yeah, or just their iPhone speaker, right?
Yeah. So it's, and I find, it's going back to those early things where I didn't have options. I had a Rode NT1 and that was great. And so you just made it work. It's kind of, I've always been trying, when things are hard for me, just musically taking those things, those options away definitely makes the music side of it a lot easier.
Awesome. Man, I know you got to head away to a gig now.
Yeah.
So, bro, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we got to make this happen.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Took a few shots, but I'm all the links to these albums and all your stuff are in the show notes here. So and I'll link the YouTube page so people can watch the videos of the Neumann Sessions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back and watch them again now and focus on the spacity of that room.
Yeah.
Because
it's pretty epic. And just listen to that snare drum. I would have to triple check, but I'm 90% sure that there is no reverb on the drums. It is just the room mics being pulled into the mix, and that's what that room sounds like. Yeah, amazing.
Right. Oh, just quickly, is it so that was all your own gear, the three of your guys' gear
at the Neumann Sessions?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Besides microphones and stuff, but is that your amps and drums and?
It was my amp. I have a Two Rock that lives in Los Angeles, and it actually played up on the day as well. And this was how fast we were working. I didn't get a chance to listen, and because we weren't in headphones, there's like crackles in the last 2 songs of the electric guitar stuff because the tubes were playing up, unfortunately. The drums were actually one of Dave Grohl's kits.
Okay.
And the bass amp was just one of the Foo Fighters amps that was at the studio. So that was kind of cool just to have that sort of stuff there too. Yeah.
You see me looking down, there's a picture there of the album. I'm like looking at the drums.
Yeah.
Bass amp,
I can't remember what it is. Do you know what the kit was? Can you make it out from the photo?
No, it's the small Spotify picture, but I'll have a look. I'll blow it up.
Yeah.
It looks like maybe an old Gretsch or something like that.
It's not a Gretsch. It's not a Ludwig. It's this other brand that is not as familiar to me as a guitar player. I can't remember what it is, but yeah.
Okay.
There was a gold sparkle and a pink sparkle to choose from, and we chose the gold sparkle, didn't we? Does it look gold?
Of course. Yeah, it's the gold one.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, there was gold and pink, and they both looked very cool. And we decided on the gold for the aesthetic better. Yeah, super cool.
All right, bro. Enjoy your gig today, and good luck with all this music, and looking forward to hearing the new acoustic stuff that you bring out, and all your music. I love your playing. I think you're a beautiful guitar player, and love your feel and particularly your dynamics. We didn't get to talk too much about your style of play and that kind of stuff, but if people watch the videos and listen to the songs, you can just see it. It's not nothing's put on. It's awesome. I love it.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, it was great to talk about actually really different things today from what I've ever talked about before. So it's cool.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Excellent. That's what we're all about.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. All right, bro. Take it easy, man.
Thanks so much, Steve.
See you, mate. Bye.